The moment she placed the divorce papers on the table, you realized you'd been miscalculating something all along. It wasn't infidelity, it wasn't abuse, it wasn't even a lack of money, it was just an ordinary Wednesday night. You'd just gotten home from work, still in your suit, already thinking about bumping up your retirement contributions next month. She, on the other hand, was unusually quiet enough to make you uneasy. "Do you think we'll be okay in the future?" she asked it casually, like asking what to eat this weekend. You answered almost on reflex, saying, of course. You both earn good money, the mortgage is long paid off. And you've been contributing to retirement for years, so it shouldn't be a problem. You genuinely believed it. It had been your go-to answer for years. To reassure yourself and to reassure her, she didn't argue, she just slid a piece of paper toward you. It wasn't a bill, it was a printed retirement planning simulation. No scary red warnings, no dramatic headlines, just a calm conclusion based on how you're doing things now. Your quality of life in the future declines, step by step. "Do you know what is actually scary?" she said, looking up at you. "It is not running out of money, it is how certain you are nothing will go wrong." That was the moment it hit you. For years, you'd done everything right, worked hard, saved consistently, avoided reckless spending. But you'd never seriously asked one question: is this money actually working for us? There were no flashing warning lights, no dramatic collapse, just a quiet, respectable, and extremely dangerous belief. If your income is high enough and you save long enough, the future will just take care of itself. And that is exactly how many people, calm, confident, and panic-free, walk straight into an underfunded retirement. That is how the illusion gets built. Step 1 looks rational enough, like most sensible people. You go online and search how much money you need for a comfortable retirement. There is a reason the rule of thumb is popular. It is simple. Simple ideas spread fast, simple conclusions get repeated. If you and your wife see the number $1.5 million and think that should be enough, you are confusing convenience with certainty. You're turning a rough guideline into a personal truth, and that mistake is everywhere. So before we talk about what actually holds up, you have to be willing to let go of the number that feels best, because the retirement number people trust first is often the one that betrays them first. Put you and your wife into a real cash flow model, not a back of the napkin rule. You retire at 55 with $1.5 million. Spend $60,000 a year and expenses rise with inflation. On paper, it looks clean, reassuring, even the chart behaves nicely for a while. For about 30 years, the blue bars hold up, then they turn red. In retirement planning, red isn't a visual problem. Red means the money is gone. Pause for a second. If you retire at 55 and the plan lasts 30 years, you've only planned your life through age 85. That sounds reasonable until you remember something. Real people aren't averages in a spreadsheet. The average life expectancy for a 55-year-old American man is about 84. For a woman, it is about 87. But retirement failure doesn't happen at the average. It happens in the tail when you're older and spending more, and you are least able to fix it. Look at the probabilities instead. A 55-year-old man has roughly a 25% chance of living to 93. A woman has a 25% chance of reaching 95. And each of you has about a 10% chance of living to 100. So if everything you planned rests on a rule, that starts wobbling after 30 years. You are not protecting against extreme scenarios. You're exposing yourselves to a very real, very likely risk. Here is the first uncomfortable truth. A retirement plan doesn't need to fail often to be dangerous. It only needs to fail once while you're still alive. Next comes inflation, where most tidy, reasonable assumptions quietly fall apart. The model assumes 2.5% inflation, which sounds sensible, conservative, responsible. But US inflation has never cared about what sounds reasonable. Look back to the 1960s and onward. You don't see a smooth line. You see long stretches of elevated inflation. Including the shocks of 2022 and 2023, you don't need chaos, you don't need fear-mongering. Just do one thing. Raise inflation by 1%, from 2.5% to 3.5%. That single percentage point moves you from things getting tight in your 80s to you being out of money at 78, 8 years earlier. Same $1.5 million, same retirement age, same $60,000 lifestyle, just 1% higher inflation. And the problem shifts from a late life nuisance to a structural issue, right in the heart of retirement. This is the brutal math most people miss. When you're withdrawing from assets for decades, small assumption changes don't create small outcome changes. They compound in the wrong direction. Food costs more, health insurance costs more, energy, home maintenance, travel, replacing a car, it all costs more. And every extra dollar has to come from an asset pool, with less time and less market support. It doesn't blow up, it erodes quietly until one day it is obvious. Investment returns aren't a magic escape hatch either. In this model, returns are assumed at 4% annually. Sounds fine until you subtract a 1% management fee, leaving you with 3%, just 1 percentage point. The kind people shrug off, especially with 7 figures in the account. What is brutal isn't the spreadsheet. It is the sequence it reveals. Drop returns another 1% from 4% to 3%. Then let fees quietly shave that down to 2%, and the story flips from comfortable retirement to out of money at 80. Not extreme old age, just a very normal, very real phase of life. This is where the fairness myth breaks. You and your wife did everything responsible people are told to do. Worked hard, earned well, paid off the house, saved $1.5 million, and assumed that number automatically meant safety. But look at the real trade-offs. If you follow the internet version, live to 92 and 95. Inflation runs 1% higher and returns run 1% lower. You are left with 2 ugly choices. Option 1. Spend $60,000 a year for the first 20 years, then live almost entirely on Social Security starting around age 75. In real life, that means driving the car longer, shorter vacations that eventually disappear, eating out only on special occasions, and a house that feels colder because every automatic payment gets scrutinized. Option 2. Cut retirement spending to $35,000 a year, 41% below the lifestyle you thought you'd de-earned. This is where the gap shows up, not as a single catastrophe, but as a series of normal realities. Aging parents needing care, kids needing expensive graduate school, health issues, private medical coverage no longer being a luxury, but a way to avoid waiting lists. These aren't edge cases, they're ordinary American life, but generic retirement narratives pretend life follows a smooth calculator line. It doesn't. Reality shows up with invoices. So when you think, I worked my whole life, how could $1.5 million not be enough? That reaction makes sense. It feels like it should be enough. But markets don't price your effort. Inflation doesn't reward discipline. Fees don't step aside because you were careful. The uncomfortable truth is that the people hit hardest are often the responsible middle. Too cautious to gamble, not wealthy enough to absorb error, and too trusting of one-size-fits-all rules. That is why retirement planning isn't about chasing a magic number. The real question is whether your future lifestyle is supported by resilient assets, or by optimistic assumptions that collapse if even one variable goes wrong. If that stings a little, good. Better now than at 79, staring at a withdrawal statement that no longer supports your life. Be honest, if returns are lower, costs are higher, and you live longer, what disappears first from your life? One client once laughed when asked a question no calculator ever asks. If your healthiest years come right after work ends, why is your budget built as if the best part of life happens at 85? That question carries more weight than any chart. The most practical fix isn't tweaking a single retirement number, it is building a spending timeline. Before adjusting returns, inflation, or target amounts, grab your phone or a piece of paper tonight and split retirement into 3 phases. Ages 55 to 70, ages 70 to 80, and age 80 plus. Under each line, write one sentence. What does money actually need to do in this phase? In the first phase, be honest, even if it is uncomfortable. This is when your body cooperates, energy is higher, and long-delayed plans still matter. The expensive stuff lives here: long trips, more dining out, memberships, visiting family across the country or overseas, saying yes more often. If there is a no-budget limits trip, it belongs here, not in some vague someday. In the second phase, spending often cools naturally. Less flying, shorter trips, fewer impulse buys, more routine, not worse, just different. In the third phase, retirement's shine matters less, comfort, support, in-home help, and eventual care matter more. And this is the phase most people emotionally avoid and never fully price. This exercise matters because it breaks one of the most expensive lies in retirement planning. Pretending your spending will rise smoothly with inflation forever. It looks great on a chart. But it has nothing to do with how people actually age. Ignore this, and you don't just miscalculate money, you misalign life. So here is a simple but effective rule. Tonight, write out those 3 phases. For each phase, add 3 things. 1 major experience, 1 everyday spending change, and 1 late life support cost. For example, big trip at 58, no commuting after retirement, and potential future care costs, no need for precise numbers. The goal is to force your brain out of the childish model, where retirement is the same year repeated 30 times. If you have a partner, do this separately first. Too many couples say comfortable retirement while picturing completely different lives, same words, different bills. If assumptions stay unspoken, the problem doesn't show up in conversation. It shows up years later. This work is boring, and that is exactly why it works. No inspiration needed, no motivation required. 10 minutes, 3 phases, 3 real things. You're not solving everything, you're tearing down an old lie, that all future spending looks the same. Once that lie is gone, the numbers get a lot more honest. One last uncomfortable question, in the first 10 years of retirement. What are you quietly pushing into later that actually belongs at the top of the list? The real goal isn't to hoard a massive number and win retirement, it is to avoid being trapped. When your body slows down, travel fades. And joyful years give way to costlier, less glamorous ones. You still have choices. That is the real return, not bragging rights, not fantasy numbers, choice. Because the worst ending usually isn't a big explosion. It is a smaller, quieter moment. Opening a bill and feeling your chest tighten. Seeing care costs you hoped would stay theoretical. And realizing the spreadsheet worked perfectly, right up until reality arrived. So here is the final question, if you're willing to answer it. In your mind, up to what age does an active, engaged retirement realistically last? Most people never say that number out loud, but once they do, the entire plan gets a lot more honest.